For many of us, the holidays are a time to reflect, to look back over the year. And for a gardener, what better way to remember past seasons in the garden than by bringing a bit of nature inside during Christmas? Now, this is no new idea. We've been doing this for centuries. So I thought we'd explore how we celebrated Christmas in this country a century and a half ago. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. Over the next half hour, we're going to take a look into the past, to Victorian America, to this past season in the garden, for the inspiration behind creating an all-natural Christmas, Victorian style. We'll start by visiting a friend of mine who's helping keep the Victorian spirit alive by restoring this beautiful 19th century home. A talented artist and preservationist shows us how nature influenced art during the Victorian period. We'll visit the conservatory at the Biltmore estate, the nation's largest private residence and one of the premier examples of Victorian architecture in the United States. And I'll show you two crafts projects that exemplify the Victorian ideal of all natural decorating. So don't go away. Nestled in a historic neighborhood in downtown Little Rock, Arkansas, is the Victorian Ledbetter House. Once in disrepair, it's been beautifully restored by my friends Dan and Sandra Cook. I've been helping Sandra with some Christmas decorating ideas. Let's take a look and see how things are coming along. Sandra, the house really looks great. Feels good to have it almost finished.
Oh, it's wonderful. Yes, it certainly is.
Look at the little tree. I can't believe you've been collecting all of these ornaments over the years.
Oh, for years and years. And some of them belong to my husband's family, too.
Really?
Yes. A couple of these, like this little one here, was on his very first Christmas tree. And his mother
Danny's little tree.
Yes, and his mother's been collecting those, too. So it's a combination of my family and his family.
And all of these ornaments are from the period?
Yes, this is one of my favorites here.
Look at that. Well, how appropriate for this house.
Certainly is. I mean, it worked well.
How long have you and Danny been living here?
20 years. The house had been condemned, and so we say we put a new roof on, jacked it up, and built a house underneath, because absolutely everything had to be restored.
Well, when was the house first built?
1891.
Well, you can see the attention to detail. The woodwork is just beautiful. I love this golden oak.
Yes, well, we found this mantle in an antique store. It had been stolen when the house was vacant for 10 years and vandalized. And we were looking for a sink for the downstairs bathroom and didn't find the sink, but we found our mantle.
Stumbled onto it.
Had photographs, could verify it, and bought it and brought it back.
Amazing.
We didn't like to have to buy our own mantle, but it was cheaper than paying a craftsman to build us a new one.
Sure, and you knew exactly, I mean, it fits beautifully.
And it fits perfect.
Well, of course, the blue tile is what led our color theme in decorating the house
Right,
this
and I
Christmas.
love the blue. I have never used it before, but I certainly will do it again.
It was fun gathering all of these bits and pieces out of the garden.
It's amazing what you can find outside. And I just love this thistle that you brought over from your garden. It does so well with the ligustrum berries.
Yeah, isn't it great?
Oh, the color is marvelous.
It's almost a metallic blue. I think it's a really nice contrast to the darker ligustrum berries. I think the nicest thing about these arrangements, other than they're all natural, is that they'll last through the whole holiday season.
Sure, all you have to do is add a little water from time to time.
Well, these are holding up beautifully.
Oh, they are. This is doing well this year. The little lady apples are just wonderful. Dried pomegranates.
And lemons.
Lemons. Limes also work well.
Standing here, Sandra, I'm just taken away by the beauty of this staircase. It's really one of the most attractive views of the house.
Well, thank you. It was what prompted Dan to buy the house in the first place. You know, he could just see Christmas here, actually. And here we are, decorating for Christmas.
Absolutely. Well, I've learned some things about this house I didn't know.
Isn't that amazing? As long as we've been friends, there's still stories I have yet to tell you.
Well, you've already got all the ornaments out.
Oh, yes. I had lots of help. The grandchildren just love to pick them over and see what we've got.
Oh, this one's amazing.
Isn't
Man
that
in the
wonderful?
Moon. Now, are these all Victorian?
Yes, they belong to my friend Barbara Beret, who has an antique store. She has so many on her tree, she has extras to spare.
Well, look at this candle clip. Now that's interesting.
Isn't that wonderful? It's from the early 1800s, and the balancing on them is just wonderful. Later on in the 1800s, the Victorians came up with these little clips.
The clip, right. Hence the name candle clip.
Right, and they work well, but they don't work nearly as well as these.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, just by placing it on the limb like so, it actually keeps the candle straighter.
Right.
You know, Sandra, when I visited the Biltmore, the Vanderbilt's estate, probably the grandest Victorian house in America, I learned that they actually used electric lights the first Christmas the house was complete, which I think was like 1893, and that was a surprise to me.
Well, in a house like ours here in Arkansas, the electricity was not all that dependable, and many times it went off at 6 o'clock at night, hence the gas light fixtures, candles on the tree.
Right.
We were pretty much dependent on gas, kerosene, candles.
The stenciling around the ceiling is really fantastic. Did Becky Witzel do that?
Yes, Becky did. She chose the stencil and helped me choose what would be appropriate for the era of the house and the colors, and cut my stencils and then showed me how to do it.
Well, you know, a little later we're going to visit with Becky Witzel.
Oh, she's incredible. She is. She's very, very talented.
Well, it looks like we better get back to work.
We have still a lot ahead of us today. Let's get on the ball.
There's still lots more to come in the show, so don't go away. I really like this little teacup.
Yeah, this one is wonderful too.
Isn't
Look
that
at the
great?
colors.
Becky Witzel is an artist and preservationist who creates stencils for Victorian-era buildings to match the design of the original decor. We saw some examples of her work earlier at the Ledbetter House, and we caught up with her while she was in the middle of a much larger project.
This job is an example of the kind of thing that we do. It is an interior of a sanctuary that was constructed in 1900. We are recreating the way it looked when that sanctuary was new. In this particular case, after the painting was done, the stenciling was done raised and three-dimensional, and then on top of that it was gilded with a bronzing powder. So we are putting that back in the same materials that it was done with originally. The Victorians loved to use everything, but they did love flowers a great deal. And it's evident everywhere here. I have tried to understand the way the Victorians used design, used botanicals. In reading books that were published by designers of the period, you find words used like obedient foliage, and they really intended for the plants not to do the quirky things that plants do, but they would find the character of the plant and use that curve, that way it fell, the structure of it, as inspiration for their design, and then they would force it into the shape that it needed to be for the quality of the decoration. The Victorians borrowed from a lot of other periods. They took things from the classical period, they took things from Oriental motifs. They loved everything. They loved flower forms for their flatness and how they could be manipulated, and you see that in the stenciling here. And if you just really look, you can see where the inspiration came from for so many of these things. In art school, I was taught that nature never repeats itself. And then, of course, you realize in a design like this, any of these, to do ornament, it has to repeat itself. So there are two ways of looking at nature, that you can manipulate it and make it better. Certainly the Victorians felt that, I think, but also just drawing from it, you realize that it doesn't really repeat itself the same way ever.
The Victorians not only brought the natural world into their homes in the form of art and decorations, living plants, often exotic ones, were popular in Victorian homes. Even modest homes of the period would often feature plants such as palms, and the wealthy would construct greenhouses so they could raise tropicals from all over the world. Suzanne Tate, landscape and conservatory supervisor, took us on a tour of the conservatory at the Biltmore estate in Asheville, North Carolina, the grandest Victorian house in America. Suzanne, you literally have plants here from all around the world.
That's right. It's a wonderful environment for that.
I'm completely knocked out by all the citrus I see here.
We have quite a collection. We have grapefruits and tangerines and kumquats and even calamundins.
Yeah, they're just amazing. The kumquats are so beautiful, used in Christmas decorations.
They are such an unusual shape.
Yeah. It's so large you can have life-size trees in this place.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
It is amazing. And look at all of the orchids and bromeliads.
We like to group them together. Orchids are beautiful when they're in bloom, but the foliage of the bromeliad is so nice.
You know, at the turn of the century, people were so captivated with plants. Plant collecting was a big deal.
That's right. And it's nice to have those collections here in the conservatory today.
Suzanne, how many different species of house plants do you all keep here?
We have hundreds.
I believe it. The variety is amazing. Now, these are some of the Freedom Series poinsettias.
That's right. We're very proud of these. This is Freedom Marble. And we also have Freedom Red that's in the main palm house of the conservatory, and Jingle Bells that you'll see in the hothouse.
I love Jingle Bells. It looks splashed.
It does, and you know, it looks really good in the hot room. I think it goes with those colors that are in there.
Well, even the conservatory gets decorated for Christmas. I love the fresh wreaths on the front door and all the poinsettias throughout.
Well, we do all the work. We grow the poinsettias that belong in the conservatory, and then our crew is the one that makes the wreaths that go on the conservatory too.
It never ends.
Never ends.
So much going on. Thank you so much, Suzanne. It's been a real pleasure.
It's been nice to have you here.
Each year, the pastry chefs at the Biltmore reproduce the entire house in gingerbread. Precise in every detail, it takes 6 people to move this edible sculpture. And it requires about 130 hours of labor and well over 100 pounds of ingredients to create it. When we come back, I'll show you how you can bring Victorian style into your home by creating this all-natural wreath. So stay with us. Back in the 19th century, when our Victorian ancestors decorated for the holidays, they drew from the beauty found in their gardens. So if you're looking for a way to bring that old-fashioned Victorian spirit into your own holiday decorating, you might give this wreath a try. I know this may look complicated, but it's really not, particularly when you break it down into all of its individual components. It's the kind of wreath anyone can put together. Let me show you what's involved in making this wreath. Beyond a few dried elements, you'll want to start with a standard evergreen form like this that you can pick up at any nursery this time of year. I'm using fir, and the size of this wreath is 24 inches. The nice thing about using one of these pre-made wreath forms is that it can cut the work in half, and it certainly cuts down on the amount of time to create it. And there's nothing like the aroma of this fresh greenery. Now all we have to do is attach the collected and dried elements. The approach I take in placing the elements on the wreath is to set everything out first, and I like to start with the evergreen material. Here I'm using some arbovita that I've cut out of the garden. Makes nice textural contrast, and the green is a slightly different green than that of the fir. Then to really make it sparkle, I use some of this variegated English holly. Now I'll set all these in place first. See how I like it. I evenly distribute them around the wreath like so. Coming back now with some red holly berries. Now that'll make it pop. I'll even use some eucalyptus because I love this gray-green foliage. Looks like I need a few more red berries over here. Some in here. The idea is not to make it symmetrical, but to balance all of the elements around the entire wreath. I also like using some twigs. After all, it is winter, and these barren twigs, I think, add a nice texture to the whole composition. And as you can see, the twigs are sort of following the same direction that all of these fir stems that make up the form of the wreath work. It comes all the way around like so. So you want to continue in that same direction. Now once I have all the larger elements positioned, I'm ready to glue them into place before I go on with the smaller material. It's really amazing what you can find in your own backyard. Berries, beautiful evergreens, and I can't imagine my garden without some of this variegated holly or these spirea. They really work nicely in this composition. But even beyond that, nature can provide so many elements of beauty, subtle as they are, like these mosses and lichens. What's so great about them is it helps me to appreciate that there's such a wide range of the color green. So once I have the larger elements in place, I begin putting the lichens in like so. One of the most surprising elements I've used is this globed thistle that I dried from my garden last year. I really like the way this metallic blue contrasts with the other colors in the wreath, the red berries, the various shades of green, and the variegated holly. And rather than a bow, I've used this abandoned bird nest I found in my garden as the finishing touch. Now what could be better for this all-natural Victorian Christmas wreath? After the break, I'll show you how to get maximum impact when decorating with berries. So stay tuned. No one can deny the beauty of a single tulip, but one just doesn't have the splash of 100. For the best visual impact, the more the better. And the same can be true in holiday decorating. You see, berries are such a beautiful part of the season, I decided to reverse the process. Rather than sprinkling a few red berries on a green wreath, I've taken lots of red berries and packed them on this simple yet elegant wreath. You'll want to start with a styrofoam wreath form like this. This one is just 18 inches across. The first thing you'll want to do is cluster some of these red berries together, and then take the uneven stems and cut them off like this. Now, in order to hold this cluster together, I use some of this floral wire. It's a spool. You just tie it together like this, and then you just pull the wire across like so. Now just repeat the process. In this case, I'm going to place this bundle on the inside of the ring and hold them together with the wire like this. Now as you can see, it takes quite a number of these berry clusters to make this wreath. So when you start, make sure you have a generous supply. Now what I'm using is berries from the Chinese photinia. Now this is a large landscape plant that was introduced in the late 19th century. Some other berries I've used in a similar way include the old-fashioned Nandina berry, as well as the dark indigo-colored ligustrum berry. Now as you tie the bundles of berries around the wreath, you may find that there's some pockets that need filling in, and I've found that that's best done using one of these long floral pins, just by pushing it right into the styrofoam like that. Now before you know it, you'll have encircled the entire wreath. And what I've done here is accented this wreath with a beautiful velvet wired French bow. Now, if you'd like more information on how to put this wreath together and many other beautiful holiday wreaths, just check out our website.
A great companion to P. Allen Smith Gardens is our website, pallensmith.com. Log on to learn more about today's topic. You'll also get hands-on gardening tips, design ideas, lessons in garden history, delicious recipes, and crafts projects that will take you from season to season, all beautifully illustrated with thousands of colorful images that will inspire your creativity. Plus, don't miss Allen's free weekly newsletter delivered straight to your inbox, all just a mouse click away at pallensmith.com.
You know, decorating for the holidays really should be an enjoyable experience, no matter what theme you follow. For me, any opportunity to bring the garden indoors just makes the season complete. I hope you'll try a few of the Victorian-inspired decorating ideas shared in this show. And remember, everything you saw today can be found on my website. That's pallensmith.com. Happy decorating and happy holidays. From the garden, I'm Alan Smith.
In this garden I dream of a bed of flowers. Bluebirds sing of the beauty all around us. And every time the sun comes out, I can't help but smile. Oh, no, I can't help but smile.